wondering how I got into this mix. Mind playing tricks and
Hey friends, this is Derrick Broze with the Conscious Resistance Network. Today is Thursday, September 27th, 2018, and we're going to talk about voting, partisanship, a few different issues, some important things that you need to know about that we'll get into in just a moment. First, I want to let you guys know, remind you in case you're not aware, that we are on BitChute, bitshoot.com, which you can see right here at the Conscious Resistance. We are making all of our content available there. That's also on YouTube and Facebook. By the end of 2018, we will no longer be on Facebook, Amazon, YouTube, all those platforms. So you can only find us on BitChute, DTube, Steemit. We will probably get on bit.tube and a few others, but go ahead and find us on BitChute. So let's get right into this. New study finds partisan beliefs drive attitudes towards news media. This is kind of interesting because to me it's illustrative of the seemingly, and I would say it's apparent that there is definitely a divide in the United States over the false categories, these just trite categories of left and right that are used as a ways to divide people and get them fighting against each other. But there are also some real divisions going on here against some real different ways of looking at things. But there are also some, I would say, manufactured differences that exist. And that's why we should be skeptical of things like this, but also maybe see what truths lie in it. So this article here from Courthouse News says, the Pew Center's conclusions after surveying 5,035 U.S. adults between February 22nd and March 4th is that the sharpest divide between Republicans and Democrats concerns the role the media plays as watchdog and teller of truth and power. Kind of interesting. 82% of Democrats who responded to this said that the media is acting as a self-appointed government watchdog, keeps politicians from doing things that they should not do. So they believe that the media, and I don't know if they specified corporate media, mainstream media, or what sort of categories, but they said generally the media acts as a self-appointed government watchdog and keeps politicians from doing things they shouldn't do. By comparison, only 38% of Republicans actually believe that. And it says that Democrats were also more apt to rely on national news organizations for their information at 35% compared to Republicans at 12%. More Democrats also described themselves as consumers of local news at 37% than Republicans at 23%. And for this study, and I don't know what the age group was, the people they were interviewing, if it was just a random selection. Let's see if it says here, but it does say that the people they interviewed, only 6% who identified as Democrats said they get their news from social media, and only 3% of Republicans get their news from social media. Now, I'd say this negative view of social media is reflected in other parts of the survey, probably I would say due to things like fake news, just real and manufactured fake news again. Getting people not to trust things from social media, which could be good or bad because maybe people won't trust their independent journalists who work through social media now, but they also won't trust maybe just the crazy guy who's just posting stuff from your news wire before it's news, things like that. Either way, only 33% of respondents, Democrats and Republicans, said they consider the news to be seen on social media to even be somewhat trustworthy. Now, this is interesting. It says 82% of the respondents said they trust local news above all other sources. And we all know that local news can be just as paid off as the national news because, well, they're all owned by the same corporations at the end of the day. We saw just a couple of months ago when the Sinclair Broadcasting Company, that video that went viral showing all of their local affiliates repeating the same script because they all get a script and none of them really question it because they're not they're not investigators, they're just repeaters, they're just broadcasters. But maybe sometimes they might get like a Ben Swan on a local news or somebody who's actually doing something, or a Derrick Broze on a local news. So 82% people say they trust local news, 71% say they also trust national news and their families as a source of information. Despite this, 86% of Republicans and 52% of Democrats said they believe national news organizations skew to one side or the other. And 68% majority indicated that news sources, quote, cover up their mistakes when reporting or errors are made. 48% of Democrats said that news organizations would admit an error, whereas only 12% of Republicans believe that. So it's interesting that the stark divide there. Democrats have faith in the media, and I think this definitely would go for the corporate media or at least their side of the media. Maybe people recognize that there's bias, and of course they trust their own bias. And I just want to throw in two older studies here that I found, two reports that are kind of interesting as far as the division in America, the partisan divide, as well as the media. This study over here from 2014, I believe it was, showing that study published in 2014 and people in the United States, specifically how often they view liberal and conservative news outlets and how they view mainstream, relatively neutral news sites. Results show people who consume a greater amount of partisan media, that is media that's obviously has its own message up front, which I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with, are more polarized, even if they view partisan content from both sides. So they're saying even if you watch Fox News and MSNBC, you tend to be more polarized in your perspectives. It means that getting your news from two partisan outlets on opposite sides of an issue is not the same thing as getting your news from one relatively neutral news outlet that tries to present both sides. So I guess they're basically saying, like, if you're still hearing from one side, well, it's the Republicans' fault, and you're hearing from the other side, it's the Democrats' fault, and there's not really a neutral, like, hey, they're both wrong in these different ways, you are still more polarized in your thinking, and it's driving a wedge between people. You add that to the fact of this report from, I think this was the 2014, it came out in the Times, U.S. partisanship is highest in decades, Pew study finds. Actually, just 2016, June 2016. And it says, for the first time since at least 1992, the majority of Democrats and Republicans say they view the opposite party very unfavorably, which is pretty crazy. Like, people have always already been against each other because of the party system, but now it says 91% of Republicans view the Democratic Party unfavorably, with 58% holding very unfavorable attitudes towards them. Democrats, 86% view the Republican Party unfavorably. And it goes on to just discuss this. So you have a partisan divide in the media where people have some faith in it. One side trusts the media, the other side doesn't. They both don't trust each other. And they both have difficulty remaining non-polarized due to the extremely polarizing 24-hour news cycle. So just think about this. Is it true? Can we say that Democrats are less awake or more indoctrinated than Republicans? I don't necessarily think that that's true because, well, maybe the Democrats trust the system in some ways, but then the Republicans do the same thing, right? Or these conservatives and this and that. Like, it's all those who bow to authority in one way or the other, who are forms of authoritarism and forms of statism. Those are what's the problem. It's not just the Democrats. It's not just the Republicans. And it's just like the fact that it's taken some people such a long time to really grasp that, and some who are still struggling to grasp that, is quite insane. But the truth of the matter is the Republicans and the conservatives are down to use the government whenever it comes down to it in their own way. They will use force and violence against people if they think you shouldn't be smoking a plant, or if they think they want to tell you what to do with your body. And the Democrats, just like the Republicans, are happy to support war and happy to support surveillance and other forms of aggression. And they all support the police state, surveillance state, and most of them support the prison state and their corporate partners. So, either way, the politicians are all bought off. So as a free individuals, whether you find yourself on the left or the right, liberal or conservative, you have to think deeper, not be bought into this. You must choose one of these corporate agendas or one of these corporate sides, and actually think deeper for yourself, challenge these systems, and hopefully create something better than what we've been given. So thank you guys for tuning in for today and just sharing a couple of minutes with me. Let me know what your thoughts are below. Remember to subscribe on bitshoot.com. Follow us on Steemit, on DTube for the moment, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. See you guys out there in the real world, hopefully. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, you are free. Peace.